Are they forcing people to buy this book?
Get this, same book. Someone spent this week $30,000 on it, and another person, $26. Not kidding.
This book is the hardest book for me to wrap my brain around.
$142,000 in comic sales just took place this week. Hit the like and subscribe. Let's talk about the hottest comic books in the world. Number 10 on the list, the first appearance of Metallo. First appearance of Supergirl in 1959, Action Comics 252.
First appearance, yes and no, and I'll get to that in just a second, but I have to state, since this book's 1959, DC's greatest time frame for introduction of their characters and the most value is going to come from their books from 1956 to 1959. Showcase number 4, first appearance of Barry Allen. Showcase 22, Hal Jordan, Green Lantern. Okay, you have this book as well. These books are earlier than Marvel's explosion into comic books from 61 to about 64. Okay, and those years are very crucial because we didn't see people really taking care of their comics till mid-60s to late 60s. So there were many years there where these books took wear. And that's why it is so difficult to find DC and high grade. When I say high grade, I mean 9.0s and higher to be in this type of condition at all. And then available to hit the marketplace is when you're going to see lightning strike and prices just explode. The lowest of all examples is a coverless record-breaking sale where it just sold for $360. That's 97% higher than the last coverless sale. We had a 3.0 sell 4% higher with a 1550 sale, and the 9.0 record-breaking sale is up 39% with a $48,000 sale. We just saw almost exactly a year from today a 9.2 sell last year for $50,000, practically the exact same price of this 9.0 just a year later.
There are only 4 copies graded at a 9.2 of this book in existence. There are no 9.4s, no 9.6s, and no 9.8s. The 9.2 is the 9.8 threshold for this comic book because it's so scarce. And considering that a 9.0 just sold for what a 9.2 went for just a year ago, imagine if one of the only 4 9.2s were to hit the marketplace. I wouldn't be surprised to see that creep up $20,000, $30,000 in a short 12 months.
And just to quickly touch back on the quotation marks I put on the first appearance, I say that because a year prior, DC wanted to explore the concept of a Supergirl, and there was a Supergirl tryout in Superman 123, where she appeared for 1 issue and then disappeared by the end of it.
Casting Amelia Alcock put this comic book on the radar. We do have Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow slated for like June of 2026 at this point. Although James Gunn said that this actress was not there during filming in Cleveland for the Superman movie. He was very picky about the word choice because her not being in Cleveland doesn't mean that she's not going to appear in the Superman Legacy movie. And if we see her in Superman Legacy, it's going to set up for this future role in just about a year's time. Let's move on to number 9 on the list. With what I think is Marvel's saving grace, I'm going to put it in this one character. Amazing Spider-Man, issue 129. First appearance of Frank Castle, first appearance of The Punisher. The 9.0 is up 12%, 9.4, 10%, and a 9.8 just sold for the 12-month average, $19,800, which is a lot of money, especially for a book that has over 200 copies graded on the census at a 9.8. That's a lot of copies, don't get me wrong. But for a major Bronze Age cover, key book, it still seems a little soft. I think this is a great investment book. What do you think?
For many keys and keys like this, I think we've gone to the point where we can really, truly see where the new baseline is, as we're coming from a correction that we all were aware about in 21 and 22's pricing. So getting into it now, I feel, is a good time to do that if you're going to grab a 9.8 within 10%. I mean, like, if you're going to sit there for a month trying to save $100 or $200, then you go ahead and do that. But if you're getting it within there, some people are just going to grab it already and be done with it.
This book hit heights of $57,000 just a few years ago. So although it's a mighty fall, that is a big gap between where it's selling now that we can see an improvement as it pertains to pricing all along the way. Just started Daredevil season 2, and holy crap, it's been so long since I've watched this that I've kind of forgotten how good it was. Not just that season, but pretty much the entire slate of the Netflix era has been so much higher quality television than anything that's been happening on Disney+. But I'll take it as Daredevil season 2, the first few episodes when Frank Castle goes up against Matt Murdock for the first few times. Those action sequences are legendary. You know, Daredevil with the chain whip, Punisher shooting Daredevil in the head at just the right spot to keep him alive. If they are able to source anything that worked from this time frame of Marvel content, We're getting a fresh mulligan. It doesn't matter what's happened on Disney Plus. I want to see Daredevil Born Again. I want to see Punisher Born Again. I want to see Disney Plus Born Again.
Disney Born Again should be a freaking hashtag. That is brilliant. I would also, this is out of left field because this is also the first appearance of the villain, the Jackal.
You're talking about the Jackal right now. His first appearance is in this book.
Not that Jackal, but the one in this comic book is extremely maniacal, and if they can pull him off, I think it'd be a great addition.
If you want to buy a direct 9.8 of the next key book, sure. Put it in your PC, be happy about it. But if you're looking to invest in it, go for the newsstand. Number 8 on the list, X-Men 266, the first appearance of Gambit in full. Jim Lee. This comic book has so much potential that I think people are underestimating it, but it's routinely popping up on our list because of the success of Deadpool Wolverine and whatever Ryan Reynolds does next. And I can't imagine it's going to be a focus on Deadpool Wolverine. It's got to be a focus on Channing Tatum Gambit. The 9.4 is up 43%, 9.6 3%. I mean, the 9.8 had a year-high sale. And keep in mind, we're in January. When we say year-high sale, it means that year, 2025, at least 5 copies have sold. So when we say year-high, there's 4 other sales that were less than this. The year-high sale so far is $585 on a direct market copy. There are 4,000 copies of this book rated at a 9.8. Keep that number in mind while I tell you that the newsstand 9.8 just sold for $1,600, and that's about the 12-month average rolling. Now, $500 for a 9.8 direct market copy seems like a totally fine number to pay, but the census is increasing. I could imagine that if we get any type of announcements, rumors, anything like that, yeah, it'll creep up. But with that many copies on the census, it can't creep up that much. I'm talking like it's probably going to experience the same thing New Mutants 98 did, where some copies will go for a few $100s more, but even more copies will begin to hit the census that it's going to maintain at heights of a couple $100 more than what it's been going for now. However, if you go at the newsstand, totally different playing field. There could be so much momentum on a newsstand 9.8 or a Mark Jewelers that if you're looking to invest in whatever Ryan Reynolds is doing, Channing Tatum may do, that right there could be the investment book to own.
And as much of a dispute as it is, I do have to point out that we have never seen X-Men Annual 14 on this list. So I feel like the community has spoken that X-Men 266 is the book that people are picking up.
Oh, I'm going to get you later on this list with that statement. Let's move on to number 7 on the list with Amazing Spider-Man 300, between a 5.0 and a 9.6. And newsstands galore, all outselling their recent 12-month average. However, the 9.8 12-month has been right around $2,900, and the last sale was for $2,500.
This book astounds me. From 1988, for it to be trading with almost 1,700 copies in a 9.8, 10 copies in a 9.9, for $2,000+, it tells you something special is happening. Because it's more than just a key issue in this hobby. It feels like something special, like a landmark memory for most.
Like more than a centennial issue.
Yeah, it's like that warm hug that brought you into the hobby.
The 9.0's up 8%, the 9.2 1%, the 9.4 had a year-high sale so far at $800. The 9.6 sold for $911, up 4%. I will point out there that this book experiences something very special and a little frustrating at the same time. Not all 9.8s look the same. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this book slabbed, and you can count the spine ticks. The back cover's black, so it really highlights it, even if there's no color break in those ticks. So someone who is looking at a book, especially in person, may be willing to overpay a few $100s in the 12-month average just to secure the best-looking version of the book, let alone how atrocious some of these copies look as it pertains to how they were cut when they were originally produced. You've been experiencing this like craze of what is Mark Spears covers right now?
That monster stuff that he's doing?
That everything stuff that he's doing, including the 1 per box in the February mystery mail called Thundercats number 12, Mark Spears, 1 per box. You know I had to team up with Mark Spears at some point. Shout out Dynamite for making this happen. ComicTom.com, link in the description. Let's move on to number 6, because we haven't talked about this book in a minute. Wolverine number 1, somebody just overpaid. They ain't watching our show.
We had a 9.6 up 23% with a $313 sale. The newsstand 9.6 up 37% with a $485 sale. But the 9.8 hit a year-high sale up 29% for $720. Do not pay that price. And I'll tell you why. The average for this book is $587. That's 12 months of tracked sales. And we had a low sale just in January of $486.
That's right. This book has crossed below the $500 threshold already this year alone. And there have been an increase to 9.8s on the census count in the last 14 days of, wait for it, 19 copies. The census is outdoing the demand. It's going to keep this book soft. If you want Wolverine 1, you do not spend more than $600 on the book. And when you do spend $600, you are overpaying just a little bit.
Probably unrelated to that high purchase of this book at a 9.8. But coming out this week is Ultimate Wolverine #1. Check it out. Some whole complete redesign could be good. But in at #5 is something great. Green Lantern #59.
Get this, same book. Someone spent this week $30,000 on it, and another person, $26. Not kidding. Guy Gardner's first appearance landing on the Hot 10 week over week, simply because of Nathan Fillion's portrayal in the Superman Legacy trailer. This dude is holding the Green Lantern IP on his shoulders right now, because we do have Green Lantern getting their own show on HBO Max. Jon Stewart, Hal Jordan, true detective vibes, mature storytelling. We need Nathan Fillion to kill it in this role so he can be geared up for a prosperous Green Lantern future. And I think the sales right now are proving that people are optimistic. The 6.0's up 35%, 6.5 up 20%, 7.0 16%. The 7.5 sold for less than the 7.0 this week, selling for the 12-month average of $450. There was an incomplete 0.5 that sold this week for $26, and we haven't seen a 9.8 in which there are only 7 copies on the census. We haven't seen one since 2018. It sold for $8,200 then. And this past week, up 266%, shout out Remy LeBeau, for $30,000.
1968 was an absolute dominant takeover for Marvel now. And DC had no longer been ruling the stands. And I'm going to give you an example on how rare these things are in high grade and why they're selling for so strong. Again, Iron Man 1 came out in 1968. Okay, there are 49/8 almost of this book on the census and 3 9/9s. This book only has 7 and 9/8, like you mentioned. So it is something special and a rare opportunity when you get to bid on a book like this in a 9.8. And another book that we need to watch out for is Green Lantern #87. If you don't see it on this list now, you should probably be picking it up, because it's only a matter of time before you're going to be kicking yourself in the rear with your Green Lantern boot ring, kicking your own ass that you didn't pick it up sooner.
Stay tuned to the end of the video. We have 5 different giveaways happening this week, and I want you part of it. Number 4 on the list, I just don't know what to say. I'm not sure. I need the community's help, and I want to know your thoughts about Star Wars #1.
Are they forcing people to buy this book?
We have a 8.5 up 3%, 9.2 39%, 9.4 up 31%, going for $651, and a 9.6 had a year high sale of $899. This book at a 9.6 has been trending around the $900 marker, but the last GPA sale on a 9.6 clocked in at $660. That pricing makes me want to go look at if Star Wars 1 is a good buy at that grade. If that was on a wall and you saw this book listed for just over $600, wouldn't that make you stop?
This book is the hardest book for me to wrap my brain around. And I'll tell you why, because it is more than just comic collectors. It's such a book implanted in society, in just geekdom, that I don't know how big the buying pool is for this book, and I don't know what the limits should be for it. So to see 9.8s selling at $3,000, I don't know if that's high or low.
I agree with you. I don't know. I don't know if this book is worth getting into right now. I mean, Andor's going to come out, but that's not going to impact the prices of this book. Between 3.5 and 9.6, this book is trending above the recent 12-month average in the last 7 days. But the next movie we're getting isn't until like May, if there's no delays, 2026, the Mando Grogu movie. So is this a good time to buy a book that is selling for under the 12-month average? $3,000 is a lot of money, but it is Star Wars #1. But there's almost 1,000 copies graded at a 9.8. But man, will this book drop in the next 6 months prior to the movie? Like, I just got to kick it to the community. What do you think? Which brings us to number 3 on the list with Amazing Spider-Man 252. And this is what I was talking about earlier. You remember how you said, oh yeah, the community has spoken, the annual, even though it came out before. The hard date was before 266. Damn it. It's 266. That's the one that everyone wants. The date didn't matter.
Why are you bringing this crap up again? You know how I feel about it. I quit once this show. Don't make me do it twice, okay?
Spectacular 90 and 141 came out so damn close to this book. I still think you should care more. Russ went on the trending video and said he completely disagrees with you.
I heard, and I started to unfollow Russ immediately. No, I'm just kidding. Look, for me, this is like WandaVision, okay? When we didn't know what the hell's going on, everyone's over here thinking Secret Wars 8, Secret Wars 8. But it was Agatha all along. Okay, so in the shadows, we all should have been paying attention to Amazing Spider-Man 252. And there was a couple times where I did mention it through the weeks and months on here, wondering, like, why is this book not trending or selling more aggressively? And here we are, we're at this point. So if you were wise enough to grab it early, you're seeing dividends now.
We got a bunch of newsstands to report on. Newsy 9.2 up 15%. Newsy 9.4 up 6%. Newsy 9.6 went for $414, up 6%. And then a newsstand 9.8 sold for $1,400, up 2%. We're seeing direct market 9.8 sell for around $1,000. It's a $300 to $400 gap between a direct 9.8 and a newsstand 9.8. I think that newsstand is undervalued. And I think people are starting to agree because we have more newsstands selling this week than any direct market copy as it pertains to selling above the recent 12-month average. I want to point out something that you just mentioned. When a book lands on our list, it doesn't always mean go buy the book. But on the contrary, it doesn't mean don't buy the book because sometimes there's potential. We try to map that out for you. Hit the like button. But when 252 landed on the list this week and we did not see, spoiler, Secret Wars 8 is nowhere on this list. What's going on with Secret Wars 8? Because it takes 3 above average sales to land on the Hot 10. And not seeing any happen means people are now navigating to 252. They see opportunity in it and they believe in it way more than Secret Wars 8 because of how much the book is selling for. It is absolutely more wanted than Secret Wars 8. But the last sale for a Secret Wars 8 at a 9.8 was $423. Secret Wars 8's census count exploding at this time is outdoing the demand and is approaching, dare I say, sub $400.
If I am seeing this book sub 400, I think I'm picking it up at a 9.8.
What about you? Number 2 on the list, a book that people are picking up no matter what, is Incredible Hulk 340. What a powerful key comic book, trending higher than anything else post Deadpool Wolverine, and it's not even a key beyond that. It's a classic McFarlane cover. We have sales between 7.0 and 9.8, all trending above the recent 12-month average. The 9.2's up 42%. The 9.4 sold for $300. Less than the 9.2, up 17%. The 9.6 sold for $365, up 1%. And a 9.8 just sold for $1,068, up 10%. And we've gone on record to say if you can pick this up sub 900, feel good about the price. But it also still is understandable why someone would pay over $100 more than the 12-month average for this comic book.
This is another hobby hug book. We did that with the ASM 300 in 1988. This is also 1988, and this book falls into that same gap of feelings you get when you look at it.
By the time you guys see this video, this listing we're about to talk about is probably going to be gone. For sure, it's probably going to be sold by the time we're done talking about it. If you went on eBay and you look for this book, Hulk 340 at a 9.8, the cheapest listing is for $914. And there are 116 watchers on that slab. Because when people have this book in a 9.8, they don't care if this book is sub $1,000 12-month average. They're going to place it at that $1,000 marker minimum. And it is a outlier if you can grab it for less than that.
Well, the next least expensive is $1,100. I mean, this person's like, I want a sale. I want it quick. And this is probably that quick price point right here for many, many people with 116 watchers. Even the 1100 had 26 watchers.
We have 5 giveaways we're going to be announcing on the trending video this week for an Omega Man 3 Bjorn Beren's first appearance of Lobo. And if you want to be part of not just that giveaway, but all weekly giveaways that we do going forward, you just have to be signed up to our SMS group. Go to comictom.com, put your phone number in. We'll have a way to contact you if you win. We know it's you, and then we can get your address and ship you a comic book. You also support the show, and we'll be able to keep you up to date on all drops. We have MegaCon coming up in just about a month, and you don't want to miss out. The number 1 hottest book in the world is Omega Man number 3, the first appearance of Lobo. So many copies of this book is selling, and it is aggressive, and clearly people are behind Lobo and Jason Momoa taking over the DCU. with Supergirl now slated for 2026.
49 sales above the 12-month average. Imagine how many copies sold that were around that average or even less. We had a 9.0, had a year-high sale up 76% for $150. 9 other copies in that grade outsold that average. The 9.4 had a 56% increase of $150 with 9 other copies outselling the average. The 9.6, 14 copies outsold the average, one hitting $204. That's up 56% with a year-high sale. A 9.8, 14 copies outsold the 12-month average, with one up 52%, hitting that year-high sale of $450.
That is a crap ton of Lobo. So much spec on this character, and I love it because I don't think a lot of people really know this character. But when you think about it, how many people really knew Aquaman? How many people poo-pooed Aquaman being one of the main movies that the DCU was going to take on? And then they found out that Jason Momoa was going to portray him. They gave it a chance, and then it became a banger. Aquaman 1 was a fantastic movie. It was superb. People love Jason Momoa. Now imagine if he's able to make this cigar-smoking, badass anti-hero who has the powers to go up against not just Supergirl, but Superman. It's a done deal. This could be a major moment for the character. This IP may be just the start of a giant craze.
I have no doubt that we're going to see some bit of Supergirl in the Superman movie. There has to be something to fill that gap. And that is going to push the buzz of this Lobo even more so. People are getting in early for a very common book, so you can still pick it up. Maybe don't get into the craze, but maybe get into the craze. I don't know. It's one of those freaking things. You don't want to miss that train, but you're like, what if I did? Am I okay? This character, people don't know, like you said, but they know from the covers. They see some badass space rebel who can go up against Superman, and Jason Momoa obviously imbues that vision of the character people have in their mental mindset. This is a great character. Can't wait to see him. And this book, oh man, pick it up. Get it smart, get it wise, and hang on.
And as always,
geek responsibly.
Enough said.